Okay, so let us create a new form. Let's call it a test form. Add a new question. First name. Last name. Maybe a choice. Color. It doesn't matter actually, right? Blue, yellow. I like these suggestions. Okay, so we have here the option in the responses where we can grab all those responses at once, right? And we can see them in Excel and then we can analyze them. But then we will have to always go to this editor here and then do that. But if we want to do that with Power Automate, we can do it differently. Okay, so let's start building the flow. And it will be an instant cloud flow for this time. Manually trigger flow, get forms, responses. Okay, so the cool part, or the most important part, was that to call the API from forms, you don't need to use an HTTP request connector, which is premium. What you can use is the send an HTTP request to SharePoint, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because it's SharePoint, it's not forms. But I think that all that hangs somehow together. I think that the forms response are saved on SharePoint. I haven't found any documentation on that, so I'm not sure. But since we can call it with...
I've read something in the forums about this. The thing is that it's actually, you don't need that much authentication for reading responses. I think having your account verified is sufficient. So you don't need any other app registrations for that or something. So
okay, then
we could double check. We won't do it today. If the other HTTP calls like Outlook work as well, could be. I don't know, or there's also the groups HTTP request, which is not premium. Yeah, we could try that out, but yeah, continue, please. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are in the Power Automate. This is the site address. It's just HTTP, then forms.office.com. It is complaining here, but you just click away, it will accept it. It is a get method. So we are going to, get the information. And now it's requiring the URI. To get this URI, we are going to submit one response. And while we do that, we are going to activate the developer tools here. I'm going to go to the network part. So I'm going to write my information here. And I don't know, it doesn't matter. And after clicking submit, we'll get here some information. There it is. So as you can see here in the responses, we have this HTTP long URI. If you click on it, we can see it bigger. Let me copy this. And I'm going to go to Power Automate and paste it in here. So what we can see here is the Forms API / Forms API. This is then, I think, the user group. Then we have users. Then we have some other code. And then the form code or the form ID / responses. The header and the body can be left as it is. And after saving this, I'm going to test it manually. Test. Run for fail.
Yeah, I've got this a lot. I think it's a website saying that you can't do this or something.
I can try it otherwise on my other account, where it has already worked.
But I can 100% confirm that this worked.
And I have it open
already. it already sparks so many ideas, because you can, of course, not only use this in Power Automate, right? You could also use this from Power BI or something, where you probably want your forms responses. You, like directly bring them to a Power BI report.
I have here another form. I think it was this one, company car order. I think this is the form that I also used in my video. So I tried a little bit more here with the questions, and I have here four responses. And this is here already set up. I also put that response body in a JSON so that we can then do some other stuff with it. But let's see the response first. Let's grab one of the latest ones. Okay, flow ran successfully.
Now, Craig said earlier, now we need those little one-liner jokes while flows are running. But yeah, I also had some trouble with the URL you have to paste in there, and Power Automate wasn't always accepting it. But now
which is funny, because in this case I didn't get that error before in this account. But anyways, so what you get is, let's take a look. It's a whole bunch of JSON. We have here the body, and this is the URI that we call. And then in the values, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 responses. As we can see here, also 4 responses. And the tricky part is that we get the questions in an array. So they are not in columns like here. So there are no key value pairs. And yeah, we have then to extract the answers from this single line. But other than that, we have here start date, submit date, response, responder name. And I think the start date with the time is up to the second when the user starts filling out the form. So you can even calculate how long it took the user. So if you want to do some analytics on that. Okay, so what I did here is I passed this body into this pass JSON action, because I wanted to use it later on to split that single line so that I get all the answers.
Yeah, that single line is interesting, because it's not actually JSON. It's a JSON object in a string. You see that it looks like JSON, but it has quotes anywhere, and these escaped quotes anywhere. And this will come into play a little bit later when we're actually passing information to the Forms API, because they do exactly the same thing when configuring questions or forms. They use this exact method. And yeah, it drove me crazy for a few hours, because I couldn't really figure out how to do it the other way around and escape the characters in PowerApps.
Yeah, I was also trying to figure out how to get the questions out of, or the answers, better said, because that's the point, right? I want to get all the responses, and I want to know what has been responded. So what I came up with was with a simple split. And yeah, as you can see here, I get the responses. And then we have all the responses into this compose results. And then we can save them, I don't know, somewhere else or continue from here. But we have at least the data in a structured way. And if we want to take a quick look at this compose action, it's pretty simple. I'm doing a split of the items in this apply to each. And from the answers, that was the column, I'm searching for the quote, and I'm statically saying from which position. Because what I saw is that between each answer, are 8 places. So you have 8 plus 3, 11, plus 8. The next one is 19. And that's similar for everyone, because I'm just counting where the quotes are. So I've tested a couple of times, independent of what questions you have or how long the questions are, doesn't matter. I always got the answers based on this numeration.
Yeah, because it's key value pairs, right? And it's always And then 8 quotes is the value. Perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was trying to do the same thing in PowerApps, and I wasn't that clever. I didn't count them.
But yeah, I was searching for a way to get this information at once, and I didn't find anything documented. So it was very much trying and failing until it worked.
Yeah, but the method, looking at the DevTools at the network tab, this is great, and this is probably where we can go back to the forms and look at other actions that happen in the background. Do you want to do it, or should I share?
You can share your screen.
So here we are back at my screen. Just what you showed happens all the time when we are here. I'm editing a form. Open the DevTools. So we are adding a few options, and then the same thing happens. We are looking for API calls right here, and this is the one we are looking for. This is the questions endpoint. Look at the headers again. And yeah, this header looks really similar to your endpoint, but just instead of responses, there is questions, and there is this question ID you also saw in the response object. So if we know the question IDs, we can basically change the questions a little bit. Not everything works, and some things are a little bit hard. And let's look at the payload. We are looking at just once again, we are looking at a patch request here. So get was we are getting the info out. Patch is we are changing something, like in Canvas app, the patch. And let's look at the payload. At patch, we usually send a JSON object with us. And here again, we see this JSON object inside of a string. So we are sending the new question info, and here we can actually read this pretty well. We are sending the choices, and then option 1, 2, and then we have 3, 4, and 3, 4 have a option that is generated as true, and then some more about the choices object. If you want to allow other answers, so you can click other and put in another answer, or just all the things you can see in the UI basically. And for all of that, creating forms, deleting questions, changing questions, getting new questions. We have the API calls for all of that, and we can look at them through the DevTools right here.
Yeah. And the cool part is if we can do that, we have the question IDs when we get the responses.
Yeah, there is a question endpoint actually, or I think they are also when I get the forms, then it also sends the questions with the forms.
But how does it work when you when you want to create a new question? You don't have an ID yet.
I can create the ID. This is the best part. I want to tell you about that because the IDs are really long, and there's only one requirement, and the requirement is that it starts with an R. It's just a string that starts with an R. You get that error message back when you try something else. And let's quickly look back at my app before we talk about authentication. These are my IDs, R1, 2, 3, 4. They're just created by me. And if I want to post a question, then we actually just have to use the post method, but same endpoint looks really similar. We just don't have the ID right here in the header, but we have the ID in the JSON payload we are sending with us, and creating a new ID for the question. So let's talk authentication a little bit, because this is where I am not really good at, but yeah, forced myself into doing this more and more. What we need to do is we need to get the authentication to post questions and change questions. And we actually don't have this when we are using the HTTP method you were using in Power Automate, because I got the same error message you just got, and this was just HTML code, and is normally, I think, just a website that is returned and says and shows you your nicely formatted error message, because it's thought that that it displays in the browser and not in the API, because it's not a real API you should use. It's just something that works for the UI right here. Yeah, let's talk authentication for a second. We go to the Azure portal and to the I want to do it from my dev account. So let's go right here and go to the app registrations for a second. And you see I have no registrations right here. Let's add a new registrations, and I will call it Forms API, only in my tenant. And then we have a redirect URI we have to provide in a second. We get that from the custom connector we are creating in a second. And this is where it gets interesting. We need to select the right API permissions. What probably everyone or most of you probably have done is get permissions for the Graph API. So because this is the first real huge point right here. But we don't need to, and here's SharePoint as well and other stuff you probably know from Microsoft 365 or other stuff. But where I was never before in my life was APIs my organization uses. And there is something that is called Microsoft Forms. And this is the same for every tenant, I think. And I think we want application permissions and forms read all and forms read write all. And I think you only had this forms read permission in the HTTP request through SharePoint, but not this write thing right here. We will add the permissions, and then we need to create our certificates and secrets. So let's create a new secret and add this. Did I really quickly copy this right here, because we will need it later. And if you've never done this, once you leave this page, this thing is gone forever and you can't get it back. So the first time, get it into your KeePass or other password manager you are using, and save that. But you can all the time just create new ones, so it's not that big of a problem. I need to grant admin permissions, so just you need an admin to permit this, and it's my own tenant, so I'm the admin, so no problem. Granted admin permissions. And what we need now is an editor where I can post all the stuff. So we have our client secret right here. And then we go to the overview page, and the other things we need is the app ID, client ID we will need in our custom connector. And yes, or is it I think it's the app ID we need. Yes. So let's head over to our Power Platform and create a custom connector. So custom connectors are under the...
Let's make clear that we are now moving to a premium path.
Yeah, we are custom connectors means we are moving to premium. If we are, I think for the purpose we are using, we just need one account that deals with all of this. So what I'm thinking is auto-generating I've actually built an app where we did events, where everybody can register an event. And then it would be really nice to have an option, create a form for my event, where you just click a few things and get a structured form that is always the same with some basic stuff. So if with every event there comes a new form with the title of the event, and therefore you would probably need one service account that handles all of this. So you would at least need one premium license. This is actually right. Custom connectors, of course, require premium licenses, either a Flow plan or a PowerApps plan.
PowerApps plan, yeah.
But you could probably get away with the pay-as-you-go Flow plans, which is probably pretty cheap for that reason when you're not creating thousands of them, or move to Logic apps. You could do that as well, I think. And it would probably in most scenarios be a cheaper thing. So move to custom connectors. If you are not into custom connectors, you should definitely start. You see, I played around a lot. It's so much fun to build app on just custom APIs you find over the internet.
Trying another angle with my webcam, keeps stacking. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Continue.
We do the Forms API right here. And what we want to do is just get the same thing we had earlier. You were providing in the SharePoint URL.
You can empty the console and
I just
do a submission again.
Yeah, that's the best idea. So where am I? I want to do the question tabs and then create a new question. And then we see the questions right here. And take this, so we need to copy this. I put it in my smart editor right here. And we want to get this forms.office.com. And this is our host. And then we have a base URL, and this is always the same, form API/API for all the API calls. This is what we're using.
But real quick, something we are moving into premium, but for a use case where you have to create a lot of forms, imagine how much time this will save you. So then there you have the costs for the premium account.
Or you probably already have premium, so
or that, yeah.
So let's move to the authentication part, and this is where the struggles begin for me all the time. We want to use OAuth 2 because everything inside of Microsoft 365 is managed via OAuth 2, and because we are inside Microsoft, we want to use the Azure Active Directory and not the generic OAuth. So client ID, this was the one part I copied earlier in the overview tab, I hope. If it's not working, we just jump back to my other tenant and use this. And the client secret was the part that goes away after first displaying it. This stays the same, this stays the same. Resource URL is another fun part. We need to go back to these API permissions and go back to the forms one, because you can see it actually there, and this took a few minutes. It's actually this one that we are needing. That was a lot of trial and error. And now we save it, and then we get this redirect URL. So, and now I create the connector. And then we get the redirect URL, and we have to paste that into the Azure API permission. Because that's just how the OAuth process works. But I think that's always the same for all the custom connectors. So if you're doing this a lot, then you will probably notice. Again, in the overview, and then we can paste the redirect URIs right here. Add a platform, add the web platform, and this is where we need to paste this. It's 100% the same as for Graph API if you've done this. And now we need to head to our first action. And I think we start with the create form action because it's, or we can use the same that you did. Just to compare, we want to get
answers.
Yeah. And we expect to get the same JSON object back, or similar one for my form that you had. So what we will do actually here, we want to not keep this static, but I will show it in the editor for a second. When we create the custom connector, we want to identify the parts that we will change. So this is our tenant ID. If we just do this for one tenant, we can leave this right here. I will do that. This is the groups actually. We want to, no, we can keep this. This exists for users and groups. We could keep this dynamical. So, but for now we just want the groups thing. And now we can substitute this with group ID. And then the endpoint was responses, I think. So when we now create this, we will do this for the URL, then it actually creates a URL parameter for, oh, I messed something up, because we want the form. So we want forms, but then here responses. Yeah, like Nia said earlier, this is the form ID.
I'm sorry, I'm being quiet because I'm chatting with viewers.
No
so
problem.
I'm keeping an eye on that.
If there are any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, Matt is saying that he's clarifying that with the IT department, because not everybody has admin permissions like you have on your tenant.
Sure. You need the admin permissions to grant this. So you need an admin to grant the permissions. And as I said earlier, this is only because I am the admin of the tenant. And then we can, just as you did in the parse JSON, we can post a response right here. So, okay, now we update our connector. We have our first endpoint actually. So we should probably be able to test this, hopefully. First of all, we need to create a connection. That's what Canvas Apps and Power automatically does. And this is just what is happening right here. And I just hope that it works right now and I have not done anything wrong. So what we are doing right here is OAuth 2. So we have again to check our credentials right here, and this looks good. First try. This was not to be expected. So head back to
looks like you've done it sometime again.
Yes, I've spent quite some time the last few days in here. So let's get the group ID again from here. This was my group ID. And this is the forms ID. And now the beauty is this is now dynamically, and we can use this, of course, in Power Automate as well, and just paste in our form information we want to get the information from, and we get a 200. Really, really nice. And we have just one response, but it looks exactly like the response body we got in Power Automate using the SharePoint connector. And now for the end, probably we go back to the finished custom connector as you could, and then you can see I have added multiple endpoints we are then using in the Canvas app right here. So for example, I think this is the right one. Yes, I have 9 endpoints integrated. All I got all of them through the dev tools. Pressing F12, go to network tab, look what the endpoint looks like, look what the request body looks like, and yeah, we have create form, get user forms. This is for the first screen where I got all the forms. Get the responses, get all the questions. In the second screen, I show all the questions. It's just metadata of the questions. I can delete questions, I can delete forms, and yeah, let's look at that, and let's look at the PowerApps code, because it's just really smooth to work with when you created this custom connector. You don't have to send requests to Power Automate first. You can just use this.
Yeah, it's much more comfortable.
Yeah, it just pays off doing this and not passing info to Power Automate and using the HTTP connector or something like this. And our IT department hates it when we use the HTTP connector, because you enable anyone to do anything practically. And when you build a custom connector, then you just have this specific connector that does this specific thing. You can check the API, check what it does, and then you have a higher probability of getting it approved than saying, I need the HTTP connector, I want to connect to
they have more control on that.
Yeah. So, and I think it's actually not that hard if you've done it 2 or 3 times, and you should really pick up that skill. So when we post a new question, for example, have the same for post and patch. It's easy in the beginning. Okay, we have the title of the question, so it's just tied to this field, and then we have the order of the question. So on update order, I'm actually doing the same thing, just updating the order, and it's just sorting by this number I'm creating here. So it's using some million like numbers or 100,000 numbers just to have enough space to get it in between. And here we creating this ID, and I thought it has to start with an R, and that's what we're doing right here. I'm checking if this ID is already in use, and if not, then if it's already in use, I'm using a random ID, and then I can see what questions we have, and then we have a type question.choice, probably if you want choices. And if you see it right here, if I have a choice question, then I need to provide this, and this is where this string JSON object comes into play. So this is how you need to escape the double quotes in Power Apps. Actually, just in Power Automate and in the response body, you saw it's with a backslash, and in Power Apps you need to do this this double quotes. So the first one is for escaping, and the second one is the actual thing you want to display. And yeah, this is and then I'm using a concat to create this string I need for this description, and this is actually what is posted in the question. Yeah, and this works really well. The endpoints are structured really similar. Perhaps for the end, few words of warning. If you're sending wrong stuff, it's not checked by the API all the time. So I managed to send wrong stuff and then just broke the form. So I just got an error message when trying to call the form through the web browser. So don't try all of this stuff at live forms you're still using, and use the stuff responsibly, because I also have this delete option right here. So delete means it's gone.
Don't try this at home.
It's gone, and we have the open form, and there's only one question left. Why are there 2 questions? No, only one question left. So you can delete this, and you can delete whole forms let's look at it for the end. You can delete whole forms with just one click. So I have a trash bin right here, as you can see. Where are my forms? So let's go to forms. And you can see I have 7 forms right now. And let's change that and do a little cleanup process right here. And refresh once again, and only 1 form should be left. Yeah, and that's my last form that's left. Okay, yeah, and I'll probably go side by side with my forms window, so we can look at both at the same time. So this is data I get through the API into my Power App, and on the left you see the Forms API, and as you can see we are looking at the same forms, same titles right here. And the first thing I did was looking how I can create a form, and that's what we're gonna do right now. First we're gonna do it in the right window, in the actual forms. Create a new form, call this and now we should have a new form right here. I push on get forms, and we see the new form I just created on the right side. We can read actually the form info on the left side, and this here is the form ID. You probably know when you work with forms, you see in the URL all the time. But let's see what we can do more. We will just what we can actually do here. We will add some questions, a text question, a rating question, and a date question. And now we can jump into the form right here. The button right here, jump in here, and we see the questions we just created. We see the types right here through the icons. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So we can look at forms right now. We can get the questions right now. But the idea that I had was I want to dynamically change questions, because I have a plan. I want to live stream some Q&A sessions, some sessions where I help new makers through the next weeks until Christmas. And I wanted to set up a forms and invite 3 or 4 people per week. So we can chat for 15-20 minutes, and I help them with their app problems and live stream. Wanted to set up the form so I knew if there are people who want to join, but I wanted to block the dates that are full. So I have a choice question where I have 4 options, and when they are full, then the options should disappear. But I can of course do this manually. And it would take me 5 to 10 minutes, but I can also automate this, and it would probably take me 5 to 10 hours. So of course we went for option B and tried automating this after Enea showed me his findings. I was digging deeper, and as you can see, we are already getting questions, and now we want to do it the other way around. So let's jump back for a second and add a new form. So we can actually add a new form through the app. Create a new form. I would call it my new form from PowerApps. We can set a theme right here. Let's go with the space theme, and we can actually, or I programmed in some options, you know, from forms, if you want that everyone can respond, or if you want that just people of your from your organization can respond. And we will go with everyone can respond. We will create the form. We jump to the form immediately, and we can look at the form right now. Let's go to the open form, and we see we created a new form. You can't really see the space theme, but it's actually the new form with the title that I created. And yeah, and we can actually also do questions in here. So we are posting a question. We are posting new text question, a new choice question. Let's go for 6 options. We can post a new rating questions. I broke it in that you can select that you probably want the trophies and 8 of them maximum and a date time. And again, let's jump back to the form and we see all our questions appeared right here. And we can also do other cool things. We can update the order of the questions. And actually, I was just looking for an excuse to use this really, really new cool PCF control by Scott Duro, if you have seen it. Update the order, bringing the rating question from the 3rd position to the 1st position. Hop back to our form, and as you can see, I swear this worked in all my tests. Let's update the order again. Open the form. So date times on top. So I think now it works. And I actually found a way to patch the questions. Like we want to change the trophies for hearts, but only 3 of them. Patch this, jump back to the form, refresh, and the trophies change to hearts. And then to my initial requirement that I wanted to do was deselect some choices or kill some choices. So let's say choice 1 and 2 and 3 are not available anymore. Let's patch it, go back to this thing here, refresh, and you see choice 1, 2, 3 are gone. And I was just doing this in PowerApps because working with custom connectors is frustrating from time to time with Power Automate while developing them, because you have to publish them new and new. In Canvas apps, you can just refresh it or delete it and reconnect to it, and then you have the updated connector in Power Automate. It takes a long time until it updates, so you have to re-upload again and again and do the authentication all again. And yeah, and I'm just faster in Canvas apps than in Power Automate. But you can do all the stuff you can do in Canvas apps, of course, in Power Automate as well. They share the same connections for most of the things. So if I can do it here, I can set it to a trigger if I can check if already 3 or 4 persons registered for a date, and then kill the choice and make it not available anymore. So that were my findings. Yeah, if you have any questions regarding this, we will upload those videos. I think we are doing one for each channel, uploading basically the same thing. Just ask the questions under the videos. You can reach us through social media. We are both on LinkedIn. And yeah, I think that was a really cool finding by you, and I expanded a little bit on that. I've learned a lot again regarding authentication, custom connectors. Yeah, it was quite some fun, and it was awesome that this was just from one LinkedIn comment. We began talking on Monday. Let's do something together. Here we are with our first live stream with some technical difficulties. Yeah. And yeah, thank you very much for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for having me, and for letting me show what I have found out we can do with the forms. And yeah, thanks for everybody for joining. And hopefully we can do this sometime again.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you should definitely check out this guy's channel, youtube.com/@enea. My channel, youtube.com/@r2power. And yeah, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter. You're doing Facebook, right? We share our findings all the time.
We're everywhere.
And just there to chat or help someone out or learn from each other. Yeah. So I think this ends the broadcast. So thanks for tuning in for our very, very first live stream. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. Yeah, but you were here the very first time we tried this. Thank you. See you next time.
Yeah, it's much more comfortable.
Yeah, it just pays off doing this and not passing info to Power Automate and using the HTTP connector or something like this. And our IT department hates it when we use the HTTP connector because you enable anyone to do anything practically. And when you build a custom connector, then you just have this specific connector that does this specific thing. You can check the API, check what it does, and then you have a higher probability of getting it approved than saying, I need a HTTP connector, I want to connect to
yeah, they have more control
the
on that.
internet. Yeah. So, and I think it's actually not that hard if you've done it 2 or 3 times, and you should really pick up that skill. So when we post a new question, for example, have the same for post and patch. It's easy in the beginning. Okay, we have the title of the question, so it's just tied to this field, and then we have the order of the question. So on update order, I'm actually doing the same thing, just updating the order, and it's just sorting by this number I'm creating here. So it's using some million like numbers or 100,000 numbers just to have enough space to get it in between. And here we creating this ID, and I thought it has to start with an R, and that's what we're doing right here. I'm checking if this ID is already in use, and if not, then if it's already in use, I'm using a random ID, and then I can see what questions we have, and then we have a type question.choice, probably if you want choices. And if you see right here, if I have a choice question, then I need to provide this, and this is where this string JSON object comes into play. So this is how you need to escape the double quotes in PowerApps. Actually, just in Power Automate and in the response body, you saw it's with a backslash, and in PowerApps you need to do this this double quotes. So the first one is for escaping, and the second one is the actual thing you want to display. And yeah, this is, and then I'm using a concat to create this string I need for this description, and this is actually what is posted in the question. Yeah, and this works really well. The endpoints are structured really similar. Perhaps for the end, few words of warning. If you're sending wrong stuff, it's not checked by the API all the time. So I managed to send wrong stuff and then just broke the form. So I just got an error message when trying to call the form through the web browser. So don't try all of this stuff at live forms you're still using, and use the stuff responsibly, because I also have this delete option right here. So delete means it's gone.
Don't try this at home.
It's gone, and we have the open form, and there's only one question left. Why are there 2 questions? No, only one question left. So you can delete this, and you can delete whole forms. Let's look at it for the end. You can delete whole forms with just one click. So I have a trash bin right here, as you can see. Where are my forms? So let's go to forms. And you can see I have 7 forms right now, and let's change that and do a little cleanup process right here. And refresh once again, and only one form should be left. Yeah, and that's my last form that's left. If you have any questions regarding this, we will upload those videos. I think we are doing one for each channel, uploading basically the same thing, just ask the questions under the videos. You can reach us through social media. We are both on LinkedIn. And yeah, I think that was a really cool finding by you. And I expanded a little bit on that. I've learned a lot again regarding authentication, custom connectors. Yeah, it was quite some fun, and it was awesome that this was just from one LinkedIn comment. We began talking on Monday. Let's do something together. Here we are with our first live stream with some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Enea, thank you very much for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for having me and for letting me show what I have found out we can do with the forms. And thanks for everybody for joining. And hopefully we can do this sometime again.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you should definitely check out this guy's channel, youtube.com/@enea. My channel, youtube.com/@r2power. And yeah, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter. You're doing Facebook, right? We share our findings all the time.
We're everywhere.
And just there to chat or help someone out or learn from each other. Yeah. So I think this ends the broadcast. So thanks for tuning in for our very, very first live stream. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. But you were here the very first time we tried this. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.